afternoon, Dwayne. How are you?
Not too bad, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today with Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
But I do have some questions.
There are more questions than answers.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Well, I really enjoy this program today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
May God bless every person.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thank you so much. And again, as we start things off, special public thanks to Miss Susan. Apparently now she makes me sound a cross between James Earl Jones and, Lawrence Fishburne. So, at the end of the day, I mightn't be as smooth as Denzel Washington, but I might be more handsome than Tom Cruise. So, you never can tell. Turn off the YouTube and just listen to the radio and you see how good looking I am. It's going to be an opportunity to talk about Conquering Cancer 6 as we invite you to be a part of our discussion. So, please stay tuned for Talk Today.
Talk Today is brought to you by Fidelity Bank. For all your banking needs, visit fidelitygroup.com. Fidelity, we're good for you.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255. Courtesy of Flow.
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. Thanks again for joining us. And it's so beneficial that in our community, small reserves, we have such a wonderful, wide and varied resource that we can draw on locally and internationally. And as I invite you seriously, as much as I hate the one-eye monster, I invite you to go into a YouTube channel somewhere about in cyberspace and just find Miss Susan, she'll direct you where it's at, to see the wonderful talent that we've assembled, not just for this initial segment, but throughout the rest of the program. And to be surrounded by this intellect, man, I'm just more intelligent by osmosis. It's a pleasure, Miss Jennifer Weber, to maybe in deference to Dr. Yin and our other esteemed guests, to maybe invite you initially to set us the stage as we go around. And we had a wonderful discussion yesterday. I'm still reeling and beaming from your wonderful, wonderful spirit.
Well, thank you so much for having us today. So I'm Jennifer from the Cayman Islands Cancer Society, and I don't know if any group of people were ever more excited about a health fair than the Cancer Society staff and volunteers. We are so excited about this. Conquering Cancer is something that we only do every other year, and when we do it, we want to do it up big, and this is going to be the best one ever. Today we're here because we want to talk about the Conquering Cancer Health Fair, which is the last event in the series of 3, and this is the one that you, the listeners, want to make sure that you come to. So today we're going to have the whole show and talk about all the great things that you're going to be able to learn about and see and experience when you come to the health fair. With us today at the table are lots of people. Should we have everybody just introduce themselves?
Well, I was thinking that, but after you said I'm Jennifer, I thought we all should stand and welcome. Hi, Jennifer. How we do at those meetings? But we won't do that today.
Hi, Jennifer. Chocoholics Anonymous, maybe. I shouldn't talk about that for a health fair.
Chocoholics, Public Anonymous. No, Anonymous. But Dr. Yin, maybe that would be a good perhaps segue, as Ms. Weber mentioned.
Well, this is Dr. Yin here. Maybe a lot of you don't understand my accent again, but I'll speak in English this time. And I'm the medical advocate of the Cancer Society, and we are partners in crime in trying to create with the whole team in the Cayman Islands Cancer Society staff, which is only 2 or 3 other people. So it's a team of 5 that's actually creating this, but we're in partnership with a lot of other people who's going to help us get this through the fair. The CME tonight, which is for the doctors, and then tomorrow we're going to go on to the do what we call a Ghostbuster attack on all the businesses, and then we crowned it with the public fair. So I'll pass it on to the left hand side to Angelique. Could you introduce yourself?
I'm Angelique from Cayman Heart Fund. We'll be doing the health screenings.
You know, and I like it. I'll just interject for you, Miss Angelique. You know, when Dr. Ian said pass the left hand side, I was thinking that song. Pass the dirty on the left hand side. That's the song. That's the one you think about, Dr. Ian? She knows about it, man. Anyway, Miss Angelique Porton from the Cameron Hart Fund and Miss Simone.
Good afternoon. I'm Simone Sheehan. I'm the dietitian from the Health Services Authority. I'm here to answer any questions you have this afternoon relating to diet and cancer. And of course, we'll be there on Saturday to support the Cayman Islands Cancer Society, and everyone who's involved in the fair will be assisting with providing advice after the screening event. And so please come out and chat with us and ask us any questions that you have.
And Miss Rebecca.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Rebecca from Baptist Health International. We are providing a speaker both this evening, tomorrow lunchtime, and also at the health fair. Our speaker will be talking on the different radiotherapy treatments that are out there. And so we'd all love you to come. We'll have a booth there as well. So with all our friendly, smiley faces from our team in Cayman. So we'd love you to come. So please come join us. There's lots of things going on with health screening and everything like that. So it's really important that you come and attend.
It is, man. I like the idea of radiotherapy. It's kind of like what we do here, but it's just a little bit different. No, it's not at all. You see, when Jennifer is to my left, you never know. But Miss Heather, at least you can, be the saving grace. Good afternoon to you.
Oh, it's great to be here again. I'm Heather Lockhart. I'm a life coach here in the Cayman Islands with BHAC. But I'm here today as a recent cancer survivor. I help people with challenges professionally, but I had the challenge of a lifetime last year when I was faced with ovarian cancer. So I'm here to talk about conquering cancer and some of the ways that I did it.
And the thing is, it's one thing, and I believe increasingly not enough of us appreciate how wonderful it is to be able to laugh and to look at life's adversity sometimes and be surrounded by loving, caring, nurturing, supportive people who understand maybe the diagnosis, maybe don't fully appreciate the prognosis as it is, but have a positive outlook and help you to conquer, to overcome, to not just be a survivor, but be a thriver. Right?
Absolutely.
And Saturday's event in particular for the wider public, maybe there'll be 1,000+ people this time who come through and not only hear the presentations, but come away with a renewed enthusiasm towards their health. So, Ms. Jen, it's left to you.
Well, if all your friends come, we'll certainly have 1,000 people. That'd be great. We would love to have 1,000 people come. The best thing about this event is that there's so much that people can take away from it. It's really practical, and there are really helpful things that people are going to receive. One thing that I thought Miss Angelique might like to talk about are all the screenings that the Cayman Heart Fund is going to be providing and the cost of each of those screenings.
Yeah, and they're so affordable that Radio Cayman has actually underwritten all of the screenings. We put the funds up. It's $0. So it was in our budget. We could afford it. They're free to the public, right, Ms.
Yes,
Angela?
they're free.
Yes, they are free to the public. We encourage everyone to come down fast before so that we can get accurate results. You get your results right away, and then you'd be referred to a doctor if your results are extreme.
Yeah. No, Dr. Ian, from that perspective, that for some of us, we know that as part of our regular checks, or maybe because our physician has asked for certain things, they say fast X hours before and then come and do two things. One, is it absolutely imperative that you fast for some of these tests? And secondly, is it 10 hours, 12 hours? Is it 2 minute hours afterwards too late, 2 hours too soon?
Dwayne, you have been a disciple of mine. I see you have now graduated honors.
See that?
You're saying the same thing. Now, if you really don't have the time, and if you're a diabetic, or even if you're not a diabetic, if you just want to come and do this HbA1c, by the way, and then thanks a lot again to the Cayman Islands, Diabetes Association, who's providing the service free, and the volunteers are coming out, to do the test for you. Now, this test normally, if you actually, go into a lab and actually do it, it probably will cost you between $30 to $50. Okay, so if you don't want fast, you don't have time, you've got to go to work, but you have diabetes and you haven't had your HbA1 check for a while, or you have no insurance, come on down. You don't need to fast for that, but just tell the person who is in the booth there, next to the Cayman Heart Fund will be the Cayman Islands Diabetes Association. Say, I didn't fast, I've got to go to work at 7:30 8 o'clock, because we don't even start until 8:30, so at 9 o'clock. Then you basically can come non-fasting. But if you really want to do the whole gamut, the Cayman Heart Fund is doing, we start off with simple things like height, weight, get your BMI, which is your body mass index. I'm sure by now everybody knows what the BMI is. It is basically the height ratio to the weight ratio, and it gives us an idea of whether you are over 25% or 26%. That puts you in overweight. Then you are over 30%. Now, people don't like to hear this was obese, but it is a general accepted. And then we have the morbidly obese, right? So which region are you? And you're all color-coded, from green, yellow, red to purple to pink, right? Which is quite scary when you get up to that. So that itself is a risk factor. So that one you don't need to fast. But carrying on, if you want to do your cholesterol your blood pressure, which again you don't need to fast for that, but the blood pressure you've got to check. Then we go to the other table, which will be the cholesterol and blood sugar, fasting blood sugar. So those things will all add up together, and then we pass them on to the doctor. And basically, even if you're normal, you may be at risk. So I would suggest that everybody who's gone through that gamut of testing, sit and wait to speak to the doctors, and they will then tell you, my goodness, you came just in time, you're at risk. Those are the people, seriously, that we really want to pick up. Those people who already know where they are, but maybe, again, they don't have the ability to have a checkup every 3 months, every 6 months. So they still need to come and see you have this chance to do it, right, Anjali?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, when we come back from our break, let's continue the discussion, because I think sometimes the public may, get overwhelmed, but for this particular, I don't even want to call it a symposium, it's, a better way to say a free health fair.
Mm-hmm.
It is designed for us as lay people to be able to understand more about nutrition, how we can access our physicians, how we can employ simple strategies, how we can avail ourselves of resources of the Heart Fund and the like to make ourselves healthier, to be better advocates for community-wide health.
Going back to all the Heart Fund fair that we had in the past, because Cayman Heart Fund was running quite a number of these fairs, and now Cancer Society has partnered with them, and that's a great way to be in partnership so that we can collaborate and then have people come to one fair and be able to get their cardiac risk and heart risk factors, and also have the cancer risk factors. The whole idea is really to pick them up. And every heart fair that I've been involved with, right, there are at least 2 or 3 people that we have to send by ambulance and call the ambulance here because the blood pressure is through the roof. They're like 220 over 110, and you sit them down, they're still up there. And these people may not be symptomatic, means they don't feel anything. If you've got high blood pressure, people think, oh, I must be having a headache or I must be, fainting away. No, you don't. But at that level, the heart is pumping at that pressure, you could suddenly have a heart attack or a stroke. The stroke is the main one with high blood pressure. So, those things you can learn whenever you're at so we're not just screening, we're educating, and we're also picking up people who are at risk, right? And so you pick up from there where you want. So this is a real, even if you go to a doctor's office, we can't even offer that complete service. Right, we have to send you over here for testing, there for testing, and we come back together, make an appointment, come back. But that one, you really can get a lot out of it, and then you also have access, like what we were talking about, to doctors who are from overseas for the cancer. We can go on to that later on. I think I better let you, Angelique, finish up because you've got to go.
Well, and what's the cost of all these tests again? Because I know these are expensive tests, and there's so many of them.
It's free to the public. Yes. Cayman Heart Fund gets donations from the public, and that's how we end up putting on these free health screenings to the community.
Yeah, and also a big shout out to the St. Matthew's University students who are volunteering at this, and these are young wannabe doctors and will be doctors, right? Yes. So they are under the guidance of, obviously, Dr. Basu, who's been very instrumental in the education part of St. Matthew's University. So again, kudos to them for turning up, giving up their Saturdays, and please say thank you, after they have screened you, because I think everybody likes to be thanked, and these students get a lot from it. They really, really enjoy, interacting with the public.
Well, if I've seen one thing in the community here when I bring up the cancer word, there's a lot of stigma still, a lot of fear. Mm-hmm. This is a chance to find out more about your health. And knowledge is power. If I've learned one thing about having cancer, the more you know, the healthier you'll be. So this is a great chance to learn more, educate yourself, as you said, and, find out about, staying alive longer and living a long and healthy life. We don't hesitate to go to a home show, learn about our homes, what we can buy, go to Camana Bay. This is a chance to live a long and healthy life. So attend. It's free.
I'm Angelique. As Dr. Yin shared, I know you have to get back to your desk as well. A lot of press and things are in preparation for the next 3 days. But before you leave, any other comments you may want to share with our listeners?
No, I just want to see everyone out there on Saturday.
All right,
well, come and look for Angelique then. And
yes, come and look for me.
And if you're fasting, sorry, I didn't answer your question there. It could be between anywhere, not less than 10 hours, but, if you're just fasting 9 hours, 8 hours is fine. Last meal, 10 o'clock, nothing more after that. You can drink water, and please, we do encourage you to drink water. And also, if you're on medication, go ahead, take your medication with a sip of water or a glass of water, and then come. But do identify yourself to Cayman Heart Fund folks. If you really have got diabetes or you're on insulin, tell them there, because we're going to screen you right away so we can feed you with some nice breakfast.
Yes. All right, when we come back, let's continue our discussion and share more. Hopefully, be able to address some of that stigma. Maybe be able to get people to appreciate that there is help. You don't have to suffer in isolation. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
Attention all gamers. Get ready for the return of the Caribbean's #1 esports event and gaming convention this September 28th and 29th.
That's right. Gamers Bay 4. Now a 2-day event going down September 28th and 29th right here in the Cayman Islands.
If you think you have what it takes, you can compete for over $15,000 in cash and prizes. Compete head-to-head in Fortnite, Apex Legends, FIFA 19,
the best players of the world,
and Super Smash Bros.
Special celebrity guest gamers and YouTubers. Drifter, Fangs, Queen of FIFA, and T. Martin will be in attendance.
There will be lots of free gameplay for PC gamers, console gamers, mobile gaming, and VR.
For more information and to register yourself or a team, visit gamersbaycayman.com.
Proudly sponsored by NetGeeks Media,
Mountain Dew,
C3 Pure Fiber,
Papa John's,
Department of Tourism,
Ministry of Education,
Kimpton Seafire Hotel,
Dolphin Discovery,
Cayman Turtle Center,
Hurley's Media,
Suzuki, Margaritaville Beach Resort, and Radio Cayman.
For the Health of It is heard on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. and on Saturdays at 9:30 a.m. It is brought to you by Holy Cross Hospital. Quality medical care and advanced technology with sincere compassion and understanding. Our mission is you. Call 1-954-351-5906 or visit Holy Cross Hospital at holy-cross.com.
The Breeze Fusion is back Saturday, November 2nd.
Bigger and better.
Now featuring a 5K walk run and a 10K run for half marathon trainers. Join the fun and help raise funds for the Central Scranton Park and the NCVO. Save the date or register now at CaymanActive.com or at Radio Cayman Studios. Registration is only $15 if registered by September 30th. And all early registrants enter to win a Cayman Airways voucher. The Breeze Fusion 5K, 10K walk run. Saturday, November 2nd.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us as we have a chance to continue speaking about Conquering Cancer 6. 12 years in the making, and this Saturday in particular, free health fair for a wider community with free health screenings in the studio. Dr. Yin together with Miss Jennifer Weber from our Health Services Authority, Miss Simone Sheehan, and from Baptist Health right here, right? I won't say the indomitable, I won't say the industrious, and I won't say the super intelligent, but we'll just call her. Another name is Rebecca Brooks joins us, and of course Miss Heather Lockhart. I often believe that if you can smile honestly, you'll find that others around you will smile. And Miss Rebecca, you always have that wonderful countenance. So, good afternoon again to you. I know many people don't recognize how taxing professionals like you, your schedule, you balance all of the other things. But for us as the public, we'll get to enjoy and benefit from the fair and all the physicians. But there are things that go on behind the scenes, whether it's preparation for tonight and the presentations for the CMEs and the professionals, or whether it's the lunch and learn sessions tomorrow for the corporate community. But more specifically, from my perspective, for us as a wider public. So, good to hear from you, Ms. Rebecca. Please share with us as you wish.
Okay. So tonight we have a presenter. So all the medical professionals out there, please do come and join us at our symposium. I know this is more about the health fair today, but I'm just going to do a quick plug for that. So it's at the Marriott. I think most people have already registered. Is that correct? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, like 185 people, but we still need more.
Okay.
Yes, my staff hasn't registered yet because I didn't tell them.
So please do come. There's a great lineup of speakers. One of my speakers from the Miami Cancer Institute is coming. He's going to talk about the different radiation modes that you can have, and specifically do lots of case studies. So it'll be really interesting for healthcare professionals. And then he'll also present to the Health Services Authority tomorrow at lunchtime, at Lunch and Learn. Everybody's welcome to come and get some lunch too. And he'll be at the health fair, and he'll be able to talk to you more on a personal level, just having some breakout sessions just for the laypersons to come and listen and just hear about educational topics specific to different things. So I know there's radiation, there's one on breast cancer, so there's lots of different things to come. So not only can you get screened, you can also get educated. I think there's also lots of people there helping you with diet and juicing, and then of course the counselling side of it as well. I'm sat next to lovely Heather Lockhart here, who's an inspiration to us all, aren't you, Heather? And she's going to talk to you about the mental health side of dealing with cancer. So let me jump in a little bit there,
Rebecca, because I'm just looking at the title that Dr. Rupesh Katacha is going to talk about, right? And again, the title of it is called A New Age of Personalized Radiotherapy. What I want to jump on it is that I think Heather will also agree that things have become much more personalized. In the old days, we just had one cure fix all type thing, but now we're really looking at your oncogenes, your genetic of the cancer itself, and also the genetics of the person themselves, right? And how we can screen, how we can predict. So these things are all going to be highlighted. And when I look at the lineup, this is an incredible lineup that what we have. Like everybody maybe say that's one topic like breast cancer, but you can go all over the place. For example, it can be a treatment, it can be a detection. Lung cancer is my favorite at this particular point in time because we've made so many advances in the last 5 years on this that no longer lung cancer in small cell lung cancer in women, we used to dread the diagnosis, even as a mere GP, like this, right? But now we're not afraid of it anymore because immunotherapy is now part of the treatment, and all this targeted radiotherapy, which is just zing, it's a bit like playing, Nintendo. Yeah, we just like press the button and you kill that particular.
Yeah. Well, years ago it just used to be one machine, a linear accelerator, as it's called, that used to just treat patients for radiation.
So I'm very excited about this personalized
proton beam therapy, which is great for children, great for breast cancer, left-sided breast cancer, because it doesn't damage the tissue because it's such a fine beam. We have cyber knives, gamma knives, you name it. It's like Star Trek in our facility.
The new generation of these doctors,
it's incredible.
They are much more game into
and like you were saying, it's so personalised. Like, for example, I know from our organisation that they all meet around a big table, probably about 12
tumour board, they call them.
Radiation oncologists specifically, just to discuss which mode of radiation is best for the patient. So it's all very sort of fine-tuned, and just to meet the own team of what they need. And then also from a whole cancer perspective as well, they'll meet at a separate tumour board, including radiation oncologists and specific oncologists and surgeons and everybody. So it gets together to get a whole, everything's gone more individualised, really. It's not
and
one
I just also want to highlight what Rebecca has also organised from Baptist, the sort of awareness of this lung cancer, which is low-dose CT scan. Do you want to tell the public about what's being available?
Yeah, so we have a low-dose CT scan. We have at the PET CT Centre, we can also do diagnostic CT scans. So we do offer a low-dose CT scan that we offer at a special price, and actually coming up we kind of are going to have lung cancer twice this year for the month. So it's actually officially the month of November. Yeah. So during November, we're hoping to offer low-dose CT scans for $99, which is unbelievable.
Wow. That US or CI?
Cameron back dollars.
Yeah. So look out for that in November. We're going to start advertising for that. At the moment, we do still a good rate of $235 if your insurance doesn't cover it, which again is just as cheap as having a facial or going to Foster's for a week. So if it can save your life, because lung cancer screening can save your life, and there's different areas, different risk factors. But please, give us a call on 749-3306, and we can talk through whether you're a candidate for that kind of screening, or talk to your GP as well. We've sent around lots of flyers about it, and we will do over the next few months in terms
because
of...
Because I think, like in the past, we don't have those tools. Now we've got, a couple of tools detecting them really early, because by the time it actually shows up on the chest X-ray, I know as a GP, I used to dread, okay, maybe it's not, visible on the X-ray, but then next few years suddenly it just appears. But this is another another tool like the mammogram, because we used to never be able to see
right,
anything.
And it is low dose as well, so you're not going to get
so you're not
a heap of radiation when you get it. It's just a very low dose. So I think these are the
things that I want the public, really to come out and listen to it, and then you may not use it yourself, but you may speak to somebody and say, hey, you've been a smoker for all your life, or maybe you've stopped smoking, but you live in a house, full of smokers in the past. You have second-hand passive smoking. You're a female. That puts you more at risk of it. And so, again, just something like that. And then they can say, in November, guess what? The PET scan place on Smith Road, in Smith Road Centre, they are giving you so something like that can pass on. It's like bushfire. Not bush, like jungle drums. Right? Yeah, jungle drums. That's what it is doing.
Yeah, that's what it is, huh?
That's why we want to play the first beat, then hopefully the rest of them will follow.
Exactly,
right. And I think that this is where we will look at the community, but specifically fairs like this, that we get local physicians interacting with the visiting physicians, whether they're in a region, whether they're across the globe, and that transfer of knowledge, that sort of networking. But then we, as the resident patient here, can access things and be able to have a discussion with our own GP to say, well, what is available, how do we access it? Hopefully the insurance companies will start to come on board more relative to screening and the like, and it's good to know that we're no longer whispering the word cancer, but it's still a daunting, frightening sort of diagnosis, even the thought that something niggling and you're putting off going to your physician because what if? Well, there's hope if this happens to be that case, right? Now, as you get back to your other things, Ms. Rebecca, before we take the break, anything else you want to specifically share with us?
I think, as you were just saying, in terms of prevention, it's just huge. We see at our centre now where we do PET CT scans, which is for patients with cancer. And I just see the anxiety and the feelings that they go through just watching them, just observing them in the waiting room. And I think if I could take away anything from my current role right now, it'd be more about prevention, in terms of just, it's so important. Just if early prevention really does save things. So if you can get your blood tested, if you can get mammograms, you can get pap smears, don't hold back. Don't be nervous to hold back, because believe me, if you get something that's not very nice, then it's a lot worse than trying to deal with it when you early on in the early stages. And it's just super important. I can't hammer home as much as possible as and most insurance plans have a wellness benefit for you, and people don't know that, so always ring up your insurance company, see how much you've got. There's always vouchers available for things like pap smears, mammograms with the Cancer Society. We're obviously doing a special rate for lung cancer. Everybody's out there to help, so don't be frightened. It's much better to get tested and find out what's going on.
And to our local sponsors out there, who currently keep funding our voucher program, we say you're the unsung heroes, because out of 10 that we give out, probably 2 or 3 have got something that we're worried about. And these are people who really don't have actually adequate insurance at all. We make sure that we do our due diligence, that people with insurance, we please, use your insurance to pay. There's a wellness part to it, because there are many more who don't have any insurance, despite what we try to do to get them insured, or just can't afford it. When they stop work, they're not working, so there's no company to go with. So where do you go and buy your insurance? So those are the people the Cancer Society is really capturing. And so those people who have got insurance, check and double check whether you've got a wellness plan or whatever. Use that part of it and try to save these vouchers for people who really need them.
All right. Certainly appreciate that's probably an opportune time now to maybe take the break, but hopefully Saturday the wider community will come out and have these discussions with not only the physicians but the requisite organizations and start to get a little bit more comfortable, at the very least overcome some of the fears, because you can only imagine if you're facing a diagnosis, those who know, and Ms. Heather, like you, will be able to share with us so that you can speak from not only a position of empathy but a position of compassion, but equally information. So enjoy your afternoon, Miss.
She'll be working very hard.
She always
we will
is.
not sleep for the next 72 hours.
I can attest to how hard Miss Rebecca works. She has been a lifeline for me this entire journey, and the person that I've vented to. But she's helped me arrange so many things. She was the first person really that I reached out to when I chose Miami Cancer Institute. She actually sat with me before the Miami Cancer Institute ever opened. Sat in my office and talked about how wonderful it would be. And many years later, that really stood out to me, and I thought, this is where I want to go.
So you also get a badge for it because you were the first one to have the PET scan, and I was there with you.
And I was the first patient one there, but she's been incredible through this journey, and as Dr. Yin has been, as well as my GP. So these two ladies have been a big part of my healing and continue to be as my journey continues.
That's beautiful, man. This is why I think having the resources here that you can reach out to people. They're great resources internationally, but someone across the street, down the hall, not just a phone call away, but a quick coffee and tea that you can share, in a few minutes. Continue to be that inspiration, Miss Rebecca. You're amazing. All right, let's pause and take a break. And between Miss Heather and Miss Simone, we can get some more information to our listeners, because health is indeed our wealth. Please stay tuned for Talk Today.
Come on, get ready for this year's 2019 Fidelity Fun Run Series. Join us opposite John Gray High School for the first 3 Saturdays in September at 7:30 a.m. for an exciting 2-mile run. Whether you're a serious competitor looking for a fun family activity or you want to take an early stroll, the Fidelity Fun Run Series is the event for you. Strollers and pets are welcome, and we've got trophies up for grabs as well. Register today for the races on September 7th, 14th, and 21st. And get your Fun Run t-shirt. To register, visit CaymanActive.com for more information.
CUC advises customers on Fountain Road in West Bay that they will experience interruptions to their electrical service on Friday, September 20th between 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. Areas affected include all customers north of Agua Lane on Fountain Road, including Schooner Lane, Four-Mast Close, Pembroke Drive, Velma Banks Drive, Bansing Drive, Joseph's Drive, and portions of Finch Drive and Thistle Lane. Agua Lane and Wave Close will not be affected by this outage. Motorists are asked to drive with caution when utilizing Fountain Road, as CUC will have a number of vehicles and personnel in the area and will be required to temporarily block one lane on several sections of Fountain Road. CUC apologizes for this interruption, which is necessary to facilitate required overhead infrastructure upgrades to provide our customers with safe, reliable, and efficient power. For more information on the outage and streets affected, please contact CUC's customer service team at 949-5200 or email service@cuc.ky.
I've got some beautiful clothes.
Serving the Cayman Islands for over 60 years. Now offering owners special 12% off on orders $20 and up prepaid on all household items and ladies and gents apparel. Let us help you prepare for the upcoming season. This offer is good at all our stores. Savannah Countryside, 946-1884. Elgin Avenue, Georgetown, 949-2452. Eastern Avenue, Georgetown, 949-7104. Drive-through, rain or shine. You feel good when you look good. Take advantage of this fall special.
Hey sis, you ready for the new year of high school?
Well, I don't know. I'm kind of nervous. Like, what if I don't fit in? What if I get bullied? What if I don't make any friends or lose the friends I thought were my friends?
Calm down. You're gonna be just fine. Join a club.
I've been thinking about that Youth Youth one.
Girl, let me fill you in. Y2Y is a teen-led club. We organize our own events, have deep discussions on everyday topics. We volunteer in the community and positively impact our peers. And let me not forget, it's a no judgment zone. I have met so many people there.
Wow, that sounds amazing. Can I bring Carson too?
Yes, for sure.
Okay, awesome. I'll be there. For more information on Youth to Youth, visit ndc.ky or call 949-9000.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waging to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. Thanks so much for joining us as we invite you to be a part of a continued discussion. I'm always honored to not just learn, but, man, to laugh and have fun when doing so. You actually find and recall how much easier as we talk about Conquering Cancer 6 and in particular focusing on the free health fair on Saturday. In the studio, if you're joining us, Dr. Ian together with Jennifer Weber and, of course, Ms. Heather Lockhart. And from the Health Services Authority, dietitian nurse. Right? You can say nurse, right? That's what you were when I know you. Yeah. Simone Sheehan. Now also joining us as a chance now for this next segment, Dr. Dennis Tishko. Now, Ms. Jen, you see, we have you here for many reasons, and not least of which is because of your incredible, radio persona and presence. So I invite you to maybe formally introduce Dr. Tishko.
Okay, so, well, I would prefer to actually have him talk, but Dr. Tishko is, this is his first time to visit the Cayman Islands, and he is here, and his topic is going to be lung cancer. And this is a hot topic right now, because I know a lot of people are wondering about smoking and what's the impact, and we just heard about low-dose CT scans. Why don't we ask Dr. Tishko to just talk a little bit about lung cancer, what's hot and new, and what are you going to be talking about at the health fair?
Can we welcome him first?
Yes,
I'm sorry.
Yes. Dr. Tishko, welcome to the Cayman Islands and the Caribbean.
Thank you so much.
And Dr. Tishko actually is fantastic. The first thing he says, "Where are you from?" Then I say, "I'm from here." Right? So they, in fact, 3 of them here are from Cleveland. So I think this is very interesting. But Dr. Tishko is actually with Broward Health International. He's representing them, and again, he's going to be a guest speaker for the next 3 days. So you can interact with him at the public health fair. And Dr. Tishko will start off by discussing about lung cancer, so that we can see what's going on and what's up new and beyond us at this point.
I'm glad to do that, and I think the first thing to think about with lung cancer is the magnitude of the problem. We talk about cancers and we treat them all very much as they're the same. It's one disease. Mm-hmm. All cancer is not created equal. And the numbers for that can sometimes be really surprising in terms of who gets it, how much cancer there is out there, what the survivability is. So thinking of cancer as one thing is a mistake. And since all cancers are not created equal, looking at those cancers that have the highest risk of making us dead, I think, makes the most sense. And when we look at cancer, overwhelmingly, the number one cancer killer across the globe, in the United States for sure, is lung cancer. And it's the number one cancer killer by a long shot.
Yeah, both in males and females, right?
Absolutely. And we can talk about that.
Yeah.
But lung cancer, that one disease, kills more people than breast cancer, colon cancer, prostate cancer, uterine cancer, thyroid cancer, and brain cancer combined.
That's a powerful statement. I think the listener needs to pay attention to this.
It is overwhelmingly the biggest cancer killer out there. The other thing to keep in mind, we're talking about cancer for sure, but at least in the United States, as of this year, cancer has now become the number one killer. For a long time, heart disease was the number one killer, but if you look at the graph, 2019 is the point at which that graph crosses, and cancer is now the number one killer. So if lung cancer is the number one cancer killer and cancer is the number one killer, it's a topic that we cannot avoid. And it really needs to be talked about. It needs to be understood, not just for the numbers, but for what it means for the individual patient. Who should be thinking about this? What are the options? How do we find it? When we do find it, what do we do? What are the ways that we can be thinking about this? So I really appreciate the opportunity to do that.
If I may ask as well, when we look at some illnesses, and over the years we're hearing about lifestyle diseases, even hypertension and diabetes, and would cancer fall into that? Some cancers fall into that because of our lifestyle, not just our exposure to particular environments, but and you shared, not all men are created equal, but some are more equal than others. Not all cancers are equal.
Yeah, that's a really important question and an enormously complicated topic. A few years ago, I think 2016, there was a study by 2 mathematician epidemiologists from Johns Hopkins. And they looked at all known causes of cancer. Everything that we know that causes cancer. Then they looked at the cancers that were out there, and what they found was, looking at all known causes of cancer, you can only explain about a third of them. Mm-hmm. Now, the reason that study stuck in my mind was because it's the only scientific study, and it's actually published in a journal called Science, which is a eminently respectable journal. It's the only study I've ever seen that includes the words bad luck. Mm. And their point as very serious mathematicians was, we only know there's 1/3 of an explanation there. 2/3 is bad luck. 2/3 is random changes in DNA, random things that happen that we don't understand. So are there lifestyle...
Like a roll of a dice then. Really.
2/3, yeah, exactly. So are there things that cause cancer? Sure. We know smoking does. We know radiation does. We know there are certain fibers like polyester. There are certain metals, beryllium, nickel. Those things can cause cancer. Viruses can cause cancer. But there's still 2/3 that we don't understand. With respect to lung cancer, we know that smoking is very highly associated with lung cancer. But still, 20% of people with lung cancer have never smoked a day in their life. In England, the number of, in the UK, the number of lung cancers in non-smokers is going up pretty dramatically.
But is it,
we don't have an
explanation. Is it something that you can go back to? I was just discussing it before you came in about, people living with smokers all their life. For example, when I was young, I was in Malaysia and my grandparents came from China and they all smoked. And being the eldest granddaughter, my job is to roll their cigarettes, right? Because they can't buy packets of cigarettes during that time and it's much cheaper. And these are raw tobacco. And then so there's me with the paper and rolling it. And of course, I use my tongue to lick it to seal it. So I've been exposed. I've never smoked in my life, right, physically. But I've now been exposed to tobacco for the longest time because I started rolling it when I was about 5-6 years old. And at that time, nobody knows about the dangers of smoking. It was just done. So we'll be looking back at like exposure maybe to tobacco, or is it the act of smoking? That's what I've always been interested in. Is it the physical combustion of tobacco that's causing this, cancerous thing, being carcinogenic? Or is it chewing tobacco, the mouth cancer? So it's a huge topic. I mean, we can sit here and talk about this forever.
After a break, and let's go check that study as well from Johns Hopkins, because that put out a couple of things. But these are the things I think the wider public sometimes are unwilling, perhaps are not just ill-equipped, but are ill-prepared to ask. Dr. Tishko, we're going to tap into your wealth of knowledge. So after the break...
You raised that question, and you used a word that I'm so glad you used, combustion. So we can get back to that in a minute.
We will. After our news break, let's do that. All right. Stay tuned, please, and join us after our news.
Radio K-Man. Radio K-Man's newsroom. These are the biggest stories right now.
Stop your engines. Tomorrow, the Cayman Islands government is taking up the challenge to go car-free to help save the planet. Car-Free Day is an international event celebrated in almost 2,800 cities in 54 countries in which people are encouraged to carpool, take a bus, ride, or walk. Organized by the Ministry of Commerce, Planning and Infrastructure, civil servants are encouraged to get around without cars, and the inaugural event comes with some very exciting incentives. Stay tuned. Good afternoon, I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines. In news elsewhere, Amazon Chief Executive Jeff Bezos has pledged to make the company carbon neutral in the Paris Agreement by 2040. More than 15,000 Amazon employees have pledged to stage a walkout protest against the company's environmental record on Friday. It will be the first walkout by staff at Amazon's Seattle headquarters. Sir Paul McCartney has said the Brexit referendum was probably a mistake and he will be glad when it's over. He had not voted in the referendum, he said, as he didn't see anybody saying anything sensible enough. Sir Paul said the current situation was a mess, but added, "I think we'll come through it. We always do." And Huawei has launched its latest smartphones without many of the apps typically pre-installed on Android handsets. The Mate 30 and Mate 30 Pro both lack YouTube, Google Maps, and Gmail, among other software. They also do not feature Google's Play Store, which is the normal way users outside China install third-party software onto Android 10 phones. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
Think about something that makes you happy. Did it make you smile? We know it did, because that's what we do at Sagicor. Put smiles on our clients' faces every day. With a large range of products to cover your family, it's no wonder most locals choose Sagicor for their life insurance needs. Serving the community for over 25 years. Let us put a smile on your face. Call your Sagicor advisor today.
We at The Wharf have the only multi-purpose conference room in Cayman, providing high-speed internet and all state-of-the-art audio and visual, and are now open and ready for your meetings and events. Multiple wireless microphones and Dolby surround speakers make your presentations on the giant screen clear and interactive. Imagine your meetings with a view, a full bar and kitchen on site where all your needs are cared for, just a few steps away from the Caribbean Sea. All F&B will be customized to your preference. Call 949-2231 or email info@wharf.ky to start planning your waterfront meeting now.
King Sports Center takes pride in being more than just an ordinary gymnasium. For 14 years, their multi-purpose facility has been providing the community with a variety of sporting, recreational, and relaxation activities. King Sports Center has a bowling alley, lounge bar, multi-purpose rooms, powerhouse gym, rock climbing wall, bungee jumping, a 10,000 square foot rink, and so much more. For more information on the variety of services, call their friendly staff today at 946-5464 or email kings@candw.ky or visit www.kingsportscenter.com. King Sports Center, your one-stop shop for fitness, recreation, and relaxation.
Did you know that once properly sanitized, some tinned food items may still be safe for consumption after coming in contact with floodwater? In order to properly sanitize these tins, always remove labels, and then wash tins in a strong detergent solution using a brush to get rid of excess impurities. Tins must then be immersed in a solution made of 2 tablespoons of chlorine bleach per gallon of water for 10 minutes. Ensure that containers are air-dried before opening. For more post-hurricane food safety tips, visit the DEH website at deh.gov.ky.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waging to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. Thank you for joining us. And if you're just tuning in, chance now to continue talking more about lung cancer, and honored to be able to have opportunity to share. And I think Dr. Dennis Tishko is about to share with us. Dr. Yin, as we get back into the discussion, your question earlier about combustion and the notion of smoke and lung cancer, and as Dr. Tishko shared, cancers and lung cancer in particular, top of the list now in terms of the number of deaths across the U.S., something not to ignore. So you will share with us, sir.
Yeah, it's actually the number one cancer killer across the world by a far greater degree than most people know. And the single biggest risk, not the only risk, but the single biggest risk is smoking. And when we talk about smoking, we all think about cigars and cigarettes, but what we're really talking about is burning material. And that concept of burning, that chemical process of combustion, creates an enormous number of chemicals, many of which are direct carcinogens. So smoking, yes, but combustion, overwhelmingly yes, in any form. People exposed to burning products, whether it's barbecues or fireplaces or areas of the country where people actually heat their houses with burning materials inside the house, that all contributes to lung cancer. So the actual process of combustion is what we're talking about. Smoking just happens to be the most convenient, prominent, prevalent thing that we can see. Being exposed to those products directly, as in smoking the cigarette, clearly overwhelmingly the single biggest risk. being exposed passively around somebody living with people who smoke, so-called secondhand smoke, is also a risk, but not nearly to the magnitude, not nearly to the same scale as smoking directly.
No, with that, as we look at this whole issue of how seemingly in some places, perhaps more in the West, the public push to make smoking this pariah. We see in drives within certain parts of us, towards tobacco 21, where we're looking at raising the age. But then we see vaping becoming this new, I don't want to say fad, but trend.
I like Dr. Dishko to actually explain what's the difference between vaping and vaporizing. Because I was just being challenged by an 18-year-old yesterday who came to see me in the clinic, right? I was just talking about, so I normally now ask about, are you smoking? Then they say yes. Are you smoking marijuana, or are you smoking tobacco, or are you vaping? You're doing e-cigarettes. So, consultation has gone longer and longer because now suddenly you've got to go in. Because in the past, are you drinking alcohol? Then now, are you drinking? It goes on and on. So, can you just explain to the listening audience, because this is like burning in my head here. Like I say, I answered him, but then I don't know whether I'm telling him the right thing. So, can you explain? Because he thinks vaporizing and the e-cigarettes and the juuling and all those things are all rolled into one.
I think a lot of that is very highly engineered semantic distortion.
Right.
And whenever you suspect that, I think you have to look at the underlying reason why people are trying to distort the language.
Mm-hmm.
Combustion is combustion is combustion.
Good.
No matter what it says on the product label, no matter where you buy it, burning is burning. And we know without question that combustion byproducts are carcinogenic. Now, one of the problems with vaping is it's new.
Yeah.
We have a century of information on cigarette smoking. The first link with cigarette smoking causing cancer was 1934. The Surgeon General's report in the United States came out in 1964. We have a very long, detailed, probably nothing in medicine has been studied as much in depth as lung cancer and cigarette smoking. Vaping's been around, months, maybe a couple of years? So the data just isn't out there. But all the information about combustion is incontrovertible. Now, the question of what's vaping or what's vaporizing sounds like a real marketing attempt to avoid the word combustion. But if it uses batteries to heat an element, that's combustion. Do we know for sure what those effects are going to be? No, but the information coming out right now is pretty damning.
Yeah, it is.
At the very least, severe lung injury. We know historically that inhaling oils is a bad thing. In the old days, World War II, 1930, 1940, probably up into the 50s, vaporizers were a big thing. And what the vaporizer is basically a fan that blows air or steam over something to enter the air. Now, it doesn't burn it, but it basically aerosolizes it.
Right.
Many of us may remember things like Musterol or Vicks VapoRub in a steam vaporizer, and what you would basically do is create this cloud of nice-smelling oil vapor.
We all remember that. And Vicks
Right.
VapoRub is very big in the Caribbean. People feel like you can cure everything and anything with Vicks
But they just
VapoRub.
rub it on the chest or on the
no,
forehead.
it's everywhere.
Right.
Everywhere.
That is a clear cause of something called the lipoid pneumonia. When you inhale those oils, you actually create a particular inflammatory response in the lungs. It's a especially nasty kind of pneumonia. Now, that happens in the Vicks VapoRub intentionally, but it can also happen with firefighters who've been around oil spills that are burning or anything else. So combustion and lungs are a very bad combination, no matter what the package looks like, no matter what movie star is selling it, no matter how sexy or glitzy the topic. Much less important is what's burning. And people really want to like the cannabis CBD oil. They really want that to be nice and safe and happy and just like a nice warm puppy.
Yeah.
It isn't.
No, they eat
because burning is burning, and sucking in direct combustion products into your lung is a very bad idea. no matter what the package, no matter what you want to believe.
There's a clear message out there, I think. And again, folks, if you're listening to this and you want to meet Dr. Tishko on Saturday, come on out. His lecture actually, what time is it, Jan?
10:30.
10:30. So there you go. And then obviously tonight he's going to be presenting to the medical practitioners. I'm sure, there'll be lots of questions, and we have, people will be wanting to ask these same questions because the poor doctors are all working and they won't be listening to this at this point. Right. But that's a really, really good point that you got across there.
Well, we do have a call online if I can invite you to don your headsets. I think we have enough for everybody. Yeah, look at that. Eh? Boy, the government's money and its budget. We're just kidding. I'll be here for Mr. Dominic, isn't it? Let's go to our phones. Hey, good afternoon and welcome. You're on Talk Today.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is Dolan Hunt on the Brack.
Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Oh, I'm listening to you.
Hello, Brack.
Yeah, hello, Miss K-Boy.
Before I forget to mention this, we're coming to see you, Brackers. So all the Bracker and Sister Island folks, make sure that you remember, mark your calendars for Brack Attack 2019. We're coming. November 16th, we'll do the Stride Walk, then we'll do the Health Fair, and then we're going to do our favorite event that we do there, the Brack Survivors Dinner. This year, it's All Things Came In themed, and it's called the Suwaiwas Dinner. So we're looking forward to seeing you there. Mark your calendars for November 16th.
Now, at the end of that advertisement, back to Dr. Tishka.
Yes.
Yeah.
What's your question?
So, good afternoon, sir. Welcome back.
Yeah. All right, I'm listening to you, but I just want to ask a question. These old new cigarettes that they're showing on the TV, not the regular ones, that they're the one giving the people so much cancer. And what about carbon monoxide? Isn't that 3 times stronger than secondhand smoke?
Yes, you're exactly right. Carbon monoxide is one element of cigarette smoke, but there are many. There are hundreds of others, many of which are far more dangerous than just the carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide is bad, but not because it causes cancer. It's bad because of what it does to how the oxygen works in your body. But there are plenty of other things in the burning cigarettes that are really ominous problems.
So the very medicine you take can kill you.
The side effects of medicines, some of the prescribed medicines can have significant side effects and consequences. Yeah. But
I'm in clear enough, but I'm having problem with hearing.
True. But, I mean, from what the physician has shared and with respect to smoking, do you think the risks are worth the potential enjoyment one would get from smoking?
I see a person that smoked for so long and they just cut themselves down to so much and they don't have to carry around with no whole pack and this and that. Just do it the nice way, like a man will do it. And that you won't have no problem. Stop driving around too much, we're inhaling too much fumes from the cars, the plane, the trucks, everything.
Well, all right, so anything else?
Please.
All right. Hey, thanks.
Phone.
Potentially, yeah, maybe see the increase. But thanks for sharing. Now, with that, though, with the greatest respect for those of us who smoke, those of us who have loved ones who succumb to lung cancer in particular, we see them struggle with even trying to cut back or to quit. We see the addictive nature of it. For those of us who have never smoked, probably can't relate, fully understand the challenges that they have. Even, they're taking chemo and radiation and they have a cigarette lit up. It's, well, from the physician's perspective, doctor, how can you help us understand that?
Yeah, that's a very tough topic. And when we talk about addiction, there are lots of different aspects of that I think we have to keep in mind. There's the physical addiction of something like a morphine, where withdrawal can have very serious adverse consequences. But one of the fundamental, consistent things with addiction is compulsive behavior. And we need to separate that out from the idea that there's some sort of magical substance that somebody has to have. Mm-hmm. It's a compulsive behavior. So if you think about smoking and compulsive behaviors, you realize there are really consistent links in that. People wake up, they have to have the cigarette. They have their cup of coffee, they have to have their cigarette. They're driving around, they have to have their cigarette. They have their.
Almost like a habit, isn't it? Like,
That's exactly it. That's what a compulsive behavior is. I'm a thoracic surgeon. I deal with lung cancer a lot. My perspective is my perspective with smokers is somebody who has a cancer and is either smoking or has smoked. Those patients, those people are very intensely motivated to quit. And I am always very pleasantly surprised when I tell somebody, you need to quit, and they say, okay. There's no argument, there's no discussion, there's no weeping choruses. These are people who understand their life is on the line, they must quit, and they do. So my perspective is, yes, addiction is bad, yes, it's difficult, yes, we know people who've tried and tried and tried. But I see the patients who can look me in the eye and say, I am done. So the message to me is that this can be done. And I worry that if we superimpose this whole architecture of addiction and it being so hard and it's so difficult, we miss the point that it is a behavior completely under somebody's control to quit. And I see that every day. I've had patients who've smoked since World War II quit. And I've seen patients with unbelievable stories about how they started smoking and they quit. And what I've told them is, you have just made it very difficult for somebody to come up with a sadder excuse. So I think we need to keep the pressure on people. We need to let them know that quitting is absolutely possible. More people have quit than smoke now. So if they realize it's a behavior that they can control and that they can quit when they want to, I think that's a message that needs to get out.
Can I bring in Heather here? Because, this diagnosis, when he mentioned about cancer, right, to people, it's suddenly like you may be doing all sorts of things in your life, and then suddenly once you're diagnosed with the word cancer, what was your mindset? I mean, you were not living badly at all. You lived perfect. You did everything perfectly. You exercise, you think well, you're a life coach, you see all your patients there, you're asking them to do it, but you actually do it. Yes. So when you were diagnosed with cancer, like, is it bad luck? Why am I being dealt this card? So I'd like to your take on this and on following what Dr. Tichko has said.
Okay, so my cancer was caused by a genetic mutation, by BRCA2, which I didn't know immediately. It was a few months. So I did find that my mindset initially was I was devastated, like anyone would be. I felt like I had done everything right and I was cursed or something like that. But I realized quickly that that mindset, that dwelling in negativity, it wasn't helping me with my goals of living and achieving my goal of beating cancer. So I needed to quickly shift into managing down the negativity and managing down the worry and concern, because that was living in the future. Everything was uncertain. I'm used to controlling things. I'm a coach. I'm used to managing people's 5-year plans and their 3-year plans and what are they doing in the future. And I found myself living in the future. What if I don't live? What if I'm never the same? What if my hair doesn't grow back? What if I'm allergic to chemo? The what ifs I was dwelling in the what ifs. So what I needed to do is practice mindfulness and get into living in the present. Well, first of all, if I wasn't going to live, I didn't need to destroy today. I needed to enjoy today. And I also realized that I was living with a lot of myths of, I've got a warranty. I'm going to live to be 90. Who's got that warranty? I realized that control was a myth. So I needed to move into positivity, and I needed to control some of that worry and concern. So I used a lot of tricks and tools to manage the mindfulness and also to work with a positive attitude to achieve my goals of living, living a long time. Of course, my medical team helped me with living a long time, but I also took my own accountability into managing the mindset.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If somebody with lung cancer, you tell them you just got to quit. I think the first thing is survival.
Yes.
Yeah. First thing you say, my doctor told me I've got to stop smoking now.
Yes.
And maybe that will give me a chance. But if I continue smoking, guess what? What brought me here in the first place is smoking. Yes. So I think that's a very important message as well from the oncologist point of view or the surgeon point of view, looking at them in the eye. Because I do remember whenever we had people who have had, severe myocardial infarction or heart attacks, and again, the first thing the cardiologists do or the cardiothoracic surgeon do say, look, I'm not going to operate on you if you're going to continue to smoke.
Yes.
You let me know what you want. I'll come back tomorrow. And that was powerful because I was just a junior doctor at the time in the ward, right? And they all say, Why is he leaving? Then I said, you've got to sign this contract that you're going to stop smoking. He's not going to waste his time on you, sir, because there are many more who's lining up for his skill. And so if you're going to continue to smoke, you're going to get another heart attack. Maybe this man might not kill you again, or it might. So we were trained that way to sort of like, sometimes you've got to face facts. Enough is enough, right?
Accountability is very important in any journey. And the patient has a lot of responsibility with that. What is the patient's role in the accountability on the journey? Sometimes patients think, well, what's the doctor doing? The question is, what does the patient need to do? The patient needs to take on their role, and what is the patient's role in their journey?
And I'd like to add something to that, which is where the diet and lifestyle kicks in massively, because it gives you some control and power in terms of the choices of foods you make, including the antioxidant-rich foods, the superfoods, staying hydrated, sleeping well, and just planning your meals so that they're really healthy and balanced, because it's like all these treatment plans, radiotherapy and chemotherapy and nutrition and everything works together like a team and helps with the recovery process.
So I think what we're all saying is how you think about this is vitally important.
Yes.
And you can't think properly if you don't have the right information, if you don't have the right perspective, which means getting rid of the myth, getting rid of the dogma, getting rid of the ritual, and understanding where are we now? What do we know about my condition right now? What are the options? How do I think about this? And once you understand how to think, a lot of things happen automatically. Once you make the decision to keep going and to stop focusing on the past or the future, a lot of things happen automatically, which itself is quite a relief. So understanding things, laying out the plan, I think is a really effective way to relieve an otherwise unbearable burden. Just an unbearable burden. The entire weight of the world is uncertainty. Yep. And navigating through that, I think, is best done with information.
From that perspective, then, when some people like numbers, they like statistical probability, they like to understand. But we gather that if you stop smoking, and for every day, year, month, year, after that, your life expectancy increases, your quality of life improves. Is that scientifically proven? So as you share with people, listen, if you quit smoking today, in 10 years, you would have added this. Would that help in getting people to appreciate that if you invest $1 today at this compounded interest in X years, you'll have this fun? Same way that if you stop smoking today, in X years, this is what?
Well, those numbers are all out there, yes. So it's never too late to quit smoking. There's no question about that. The earlier you quit, the longer you live. So that message needs to be repeated over and over. Quit now. Quit now. It's not worth it. Even if you say, look, I enjoy smoking, I don't care whether I die. That's a pretty significant damnation for everybody who cares about you. Mm-hmm. And I think divorcing yourself from everybody around you, everybody who loves you, everybody in your life, is an unbelievably selfish thing to do. You may still choose to do it, but we need to call it like it is.
But then if I may then be guided by you, and I sort of try to be sensitive and respectful, but the patient who is now going to the physician and has been given a diagnosis, you have stage 4 lung cancer. You got 3 to 6 months. This is the scenario. The patient weighs it and says, okay, well, I can give up this, but I enjoy my tobacco in whatever form. Is it one that saying to the patient, statistically, based on experience, with the level of damage to your lungs and whatever, you're probably not going to live much longer than 6 months. That patient may say, well, why give up the enjoyment?
Can I just jump in?
Please,
first? Because I've got real personal experience with this when going way back when I was still working with Dr. Coleman in the clinic, and you're talking about maybe about how old was my daughter now? 26 years ago, right? And at the time it was very little that we have here in Cayman, right? And there's no chemotherapy, there's nothing at all. We just have a chest X-ray, right? And I've got patients, who have been smoking all their life. At that time, there was, again, we tell them to stop, they don't stop, and they continue smoking. Then I said, you're going to die with or from lung cancer, not from because you're smoking so much and you're now developing, chronic obstructive airways disease, you're having emphysema. And then she said, I really don't care. I want to enjoy my life. I just want to smoke. Then I said, what about your grandchildren? You do not want to see them grow up? Oh, I don't care. I like my life, blah, blah, blah. But the moment she was diagnosed with it, she sat in there and cried her eyes out. Like, Why did you not tell me this is going to happen? Then I show her my notes. At that time, there was no electronic notes. So you just write a little paper thing. I say, see, Mrs. So-and-so, I did tell you, every time you come in, I say the same thing to you. I appeal to you. I bribed you and did everything I could. But now you've chosen this, and you told me that when you have it, you're just going to continue to live out your life. And 2 or 3 of them who I'm done with, they say, no, I want to live to see my grandchild get married. What can you do? Mm-hmm. And that's when Dr. Yin then burst into tears with them, because we had nothing. We had no tools at that time, right? So now fast forward, we have the tools, we have the knowledge, and yet when you give people this advice, the answer is still the same. So when people are diagnosed with cancer, the survivorship is like how people survive hypothermia, in cave, you break your leg and blah, 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 and still they will climb out and survive. Isn't that right?
Absolutely. And I think as a physician, one of the toughest things to deal with is somebody who chooses the wrong path. When you lay it out, you say, look, you have a very narrow window right now. Stop smoking or things are really going to get out of control. And they pull a James Dean maneuver, a Marlboro Man kind of a move. And then they come back and you say, I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do. Mm-hmm. That is an incredibly, profoundly difficult thing to deal with. I think it's our responsibility to make sure people understand clearly what they're doing as adverse consequences, some of which may be irretrievable. Now, the flip side of that is if we could catch a lung cancer early, a nice early stage 1A lung cancer, those are curable. And that is really gratifying. When I operate on somebody with an early stage lung cancer, I don't make them 5% better. I don't make them 10% better. I push that needle all the way back over to nearly 100%.
Wow, that's really good news.
That's a message that many doctors don't know. When we were in medical school, the treatment and the idea was lung cancer is a death sentence. It's a horrible disease. There's no options. In the last 5 or 10 years, the options have become really impressively remarkable. Surgery's gotten much, much better. We're doing things minimally invasive. I send people home the next day, sometimes the same day, from their lung surgery. And that is a message not well known.
That's right. So, that's why we're having these fairs, to educate both the physicians themselves, because, we can absorb only so much, but get you guys out there. That's why Cayman Public, this is your chance on Saturday. Please do come out in droves. You're listening to the good doctor here, and there'll be 4 or 5 more of them, that you're going to look, and you can speak to Heather Lockhart here, who's a thriver, not just a survivor, she's a thriver, and get all this information firsthand.
What I'd like to just also say, those of you listening who may think, well, I've never smoked, I don't have any risk, this isn't about me, I've got other things to be worried about, that may be true. But somebody you care about, somebody you love, is going to be facing this problem. This is your chance to do something for those around you. So even if you do not think lung cancer is something that pertains to you, it probably pertains to somebody you care about. Right. And the more you know, the more you can help them. So please listen.
All right, with that, pause and we'll take our break. When we come back, we'll continue the discussion. Stay tuned.
Come on, get ready for this year's 2019 Fidelity Fun Run Series. Join us opposite John Gray High School for the first 3 Saturdays in September at 7:30 a.m. for an exciting 2-mile run. Whether you're a serious competitor looking for a fun family activity or you want to take an early stroll, the Fidelity Fun Run Series is the event for you. Strollers and pets are welcome, and we've got trophies up for grabs as well. Register today for the races on September 7th, 14th, and 21st. And get your Fun Run t-shirt. To register, visit CaymanActive.com for more information.
There are plenty of reasons to be a Logic customer. There's lightning fast internet connectivity. There's the great overall customer experience. And now you can improve your Wi-Fi connectivity with Logic Boost Wi-Fi for free. With Boost, you can extend your freedom to stream, game, and download seamlessly anywhere in your home, like your patio or your underground lair if you have one. Sign up now for any Logic Bundle package and get free Boost Wi-Fi for a limited time. Visit logic.ky for details.
The Cayman Islands Cancer Society presents Conquering Cancer 6. Let's fight cancer together. This event will offer you information about new and innovative ways of screening, diagnosing, and treating cancer. Come and learn from the top medical professionals from leading healthcare providers from near and far. The event takes place at the Marriott Beach Resort the 21st of September. This interactive health fair is free to the public of all ages and will include free healthcare screenings for glucose level, blood pressure, BMI, and cholesterol, as well as free health food samples.
Radio Cayman's Super Jam Show, the #1 drive time entertainment show on your radio, featuring Will Sinatra. Enjoy a mix of pop, hip-hop, dancehall, and soca, and an entertainment trivia section.
Another proud sponsor of the Super Jam Show.
Merengue Town.
Time to feel the rhythm. Time to feel the vibe. It's time for Merengue Town.
The Breeze Fusion is back Saturday, November 2nd.
Bigger and better.
Now featuring a 5K walk run and a 10K run for half marathon trainers. Join the fun and help raise funds for the Central Scranton Park and the NCVO. Save the date or register now at CaymanActive.com or at Radio Cayman Studios. Registration is only $15 if registered by September 30th. And all early registrants enter to win a Cayman Airways voucher. The Breeze Fusion 5K, 10K walk run. Saturday, November 2nd.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome, and thanks so much, both, or I would say specifically to Dr. Ian, but to the Cayman Islands Cancer Society and all of its sponsors, and in particular our physicians, both local and visiting, for allowing, with the greatest respect, not just the amount of opportunity for the local and international physicians to exchange ideas and network, but for us as the resident population to be able to benefit from this information, to be able to access the resources and the technology, and to become increasingly comfortable with what we have, at our fingertips. So, Dr. Ian, as we continue to, facilitate this discussion, now we can introduce to our studio two other physicians. A gentleman who I was told...
He's no stranger to us. Dr. Mani from Holy Cross Hospital, welcome back again. Thanks again for supporting the Cancer Society. And, of course, welcome back again as well, Dr. Patel. And Dr. Patel basically will be talking about innovations in radiation therapy. So, like I said, we're going to bring it all home because Dr. Tishko has been talking about lung cancer and he's a thoracic surgeon. So we're going to bring in, what stage do people get radiation therapy, in lung cancer? Maybe you two gentlemen could start off the discussion.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. So, radiation therapy can technically be utilized during most, if not all, the stages of lung cancer. If it's very early stage lung cancer, we can treat with what we call stereotactic body radiotherapy, which is just a few treatments with radiation, specifically in candidates that have poor pulmonary function or are not deemed surgical candidates for other comorbid conditions. Thereafter, usually in stage 3 and even parts of 2, we will oftentimes do chemo and radiation therapy. And then for stage 4, we oftentimes utilize radiation therapy as a crucial part of palliation, which is to help reduce the burden of the disease, whether it's pain or obstruction or whatever it may be.
So what's your take on that one? Normally you say you operate on stage 1, but again, it could be more than that, right?
Oh, absolutely. I think one of the really essential things to keep in mind here with lung cancer is knowing as much as we can about the particular disease and the particular individual. There is a very huge variability in lung cancer management. An awful lot of surgery that's done for lung cancer is done by people who don't do much lung surgery. Mm-hmm. And that really surprises people. You have a lot of cardiac surgeons who do lots and lots of heart surgery and an occasional lung operation. In the United States, most thoracic surgery is actually done by general surgeons, which is shocking even to the surgeons that I talk to. So being able to make sophisticated surgical decisions means you have to have sophisticated surgical abilities. And if you're doing this part-time, You can't do that. If you're mostly a cardiac surgeon and you do an occasional lung operation, you may say something is inoperable that's not. And I can speak from very extensive clinical experience. I see people every day who've been told they can't have lung surgery, usually by someone who's not a lung surgeon. And that is a really critical piece of information. Dr. Patel mentioned using radiation for early-stage lung disease in inoperable patients. The question is, who says you're inoperable? If you do 10 cases a year, you may be inoperable. If you do 400 cases a year, you may very well be operable. That is a very difficult burden for a patient to try to navigate, because they get referred to a doctor from a doctor they trust, and that doctor says this surgeon is the person who should be doing your lung surgery, even though he doesn't do very much of that. That's an unreasonable burden to place on a patient to make those decisions. But like you might expect, sophisticated techniques need to be done by people who do it all the time.
That's right.
Not occasionally. And some of those numbers can be downright frightening. In the United States, when surgery for lung cancer is done by general surgeons, the average number of cases they do per year is 9.
Wow.
9. Versus an active thoracic surgeon who may do hundreds. So the decisions really need to be very clear and very defined from people able to make those decisions.
Now, who would that person be? The consulting physician that the patient goes to as the, let's say, the GP. You have, in this case, let's talk, lung cancer, and the patient is seeing the primary care physician, or is it the patient now taking it on their own and saying, okay, let me research this and find out Dr. A, who is a specialist and who does the 400 surgeries a year versus the 9, but is based in Taiwan or maybe T1 or on a BRAC.
Let me tell you that, and Heather can jump in, being she's a cancer survivor, thriver, right? So she's going to be giving a talk as well at the same time. That's why I wanted to bring in doctors, and not just doctors alone, but cancer survivors, dietitian. It's a team, okay, Dwayne?
Yeah.
I, as the GP, mainly diagnose, not even diagnose, maybe detect, find out something is really going on. Then we will have to refer to either, let's say, breast or ovarian or something, gynecological oncologist. So they will have a tumor board. That's what makes such a big difference, I think, to the outcome of cancer at this particular point in time, right? And the tumor board basically consists of radiotherapists, radiologists, cancer survivors, spokesperson, psychologist, dietitian, even spiritual people, because some of the people who've got different beliefs, don't want anybody to touch them, and they do not believe in anything like this. So it's a whole team of people that, come together. And then, like I say, different centers will have different tumor boards. But if there's something that really talked about within 10, 12 people, they say, you know what, this is something we shouldn't tackle. And I hope most doctors are. There are things that I wouldn't even touch as a GP. Right. In the old days, I would have to do it because there's nobody else here. But now, hello, Dr. Yin, you used to do this for me. I say, hello, no, we've now got specialists on island, and we've got, our neighbors in the United States or United Kingdom, and the patients themselves now are advocates. I researched this, Dr. Yin, you say I've got this, and this. I went researching, and there's somebody in Israel. For example, we talk about cryotherapy of cancer cells. What do you think? And I profess, I don't know. Right? So then we go away and try and research. So it's more, patients are getting more involved, which is quite good, but sometimes it's not that good, right? But again, in Cayman, because we are such a small community, most of the doctors know each other. So we will call each other up and say, have you had experience in this? And say, yeah, maybe, like go to Holy Cross or go to Broward, go to Memorial, because they have got, experts there who've done this. So we are actually much more accessible to the bright experts, in a way, rather than in the United States, you're governed by your insurance, right? Are you? I don't understand the American system.
That's a factor. But I think what you bring up a good point, and what I've seen over the last few years is patients doing more and more of their own research. I had a patient, a remarkable patient, a little old lady, somebody's typical grandma comes in, and I said, well, how'd you come here? She said, well, I went on the internet and I found you and I watched your YouTube channel. I want you to do the surgery and I want you to do my surgery.
That's right.
And this was somebody who you would never expect to have done that, but that's happening more and more. So what I like to advise patients is ask a simple question. If you're having your knee replaced, you want an orthopedic surgeon who just does knees, not knees and hips and shoulders. So if you're having lung surgery, is this all you do? Or are you really mostly a cardiac surgeon doing this? Or do you really mostly do general surgery? Those days are gone. Those days are very long gone. But that still hangs around with thoracic surgery that, well, I've got a cardiac guy and he's the one who does our lung surgery. So if I needed my knee done, I would find a guy who does just knees. And I would ask him directly, is this all you do? Mm-hmm. Because I think we're at the point in medicine now where you cannot be an expert at more than one thing. Mm-hmm. You just can't. As much as it would be comforting to think that, doesn't happen.
And to echo the points that you guys have also made, I do think it's crucial that we as physicians help, lead patients in the right direction. We inform them that things such as tumor boards exist, the ability to have multiple physicians in one room, so you have a multidisciplinary discussion occurs, so that way we can get the best and optimal care for that patient, whether it's just workup and staging and then to the actual treatment. And to also echo the point that you had, there are a lot more patients now doing their own research and looking people up, looking up the equipment. I get questions all the time in regards to what equipment do you have? Will you be able to do intensely modulated radiotherapy, stereotactic radiotherapy, all of these sorts of things. So I think there's, pros to that as well. So it's always great when the patients also take the initiative to look up, the people that will be taking care of them and have their lives in their hands.
Having been on the other side of the tumor board conversation,
yes. Mm-hmm.
When I was first diagnosed with ovarian cancer, and this had been after I'd been in surgery and there'd already been the hysterectomy. This is where it was identified, in surgery. It was very early. There'd been no symptoms, and it was kind of a shock to everyone, I think, including the surgeon. So, and this was a very, very specialized surgeon that I'd actually seen speak here. So I thought to myself, if I ever have any kind of problem, I'm going to this surgeon. So I knew exactly who he was. But in the conversation after the pathology came back, we were sitting in the room after the pathology results were there. He had said, you can have the IV chemo, which is going to be fine, and our tumor board has voted that IP chemo might also be relevant, a different type of chemo that would, for anyone listening, that would also target the cancer right in my abdomen. But it's pretty tough on the patient. So this is there was one person on the board that said, no, this isn't really necessary, but the rest of the board think this is a good idea. So I had another family member there, my husband, who is also a doctor. And we made that decision right there in the room. I was going to go ahead with it. But he explained all the people that were on the board, why the decision was made, and involved me in the decision. So I felt very comfortable with it. So having been on the other side of this tumor board, I'm glad it's there. I felt very involved in the care. And by the way, the chemo wasn't that bad.
Good.
I did fine in it.
Actually, coming back to Dr. Patel again, going on about your title for the talk, right? Mm-hmm. That's going to be presented tonight to all the medical professionals. And those of you who haven't registered, there's still a few more spaces left. Otherwise, we're going to be closing it by 5 o'clock. So can you talk about what are the innovations that's really come on radiation and explain what radiation therapy is to the public?
Absolutely. So radiation therapy is basically use of ionizing radiation to treat cancer cells. So when we think of treating any sort of malignancy, we look at things as a trimodality approach. You want to be seen by a medical oncologist who gives you systemic therapy, whether that's chemotherapy, immunotherapy, hormonal therapy, etc. Obviously, there's a surgical component to it as well, and then there is the radiation component. So usually radiation is given in two sort of ways. One is we take radioactive seeds or implants. That's called brachytherapy. Mm-hmm. And the other is when we use external beam radiation therapy. That's usually given by a machine in modern times. So there's been a lot of innovation, particularly not throughout just the entire field of cancer, but also in radiation therapy. Now we're better able to target the areas of malignancy and spare normal tissue that's adjacent to the area that the tumor may be in. So, for example, speaking of lung cancer, if someone has a very large tumor that's right next to their heart, we are now able to shape our beams around the heart, the esophagus, the spinal cord, the brachial plexus, which is the nerves that control the arms, and then also spare a lot of the lung, because we know that patients with lung cancer may not have the best lung function as it is. So now we're seeing significantly better results in not only our ability to control the tumor, but also minimizing side effects. So I think there's been lots of specific, innovations in doing all of that. And also now we're able to, decrease the treatment time. So something I was talking about earlier, where we are, for patients that have stage 1 lung cancer, instead of the traditional 6 weeks of treatment, they just come in for 5 treatments.
Yeah,
so essentially,
and also explain to the listening public as well, who had family going for radiation therapy, because we Cayman Islands still do not have a radiation therapy unit here, right? So they have got to go abroad, to United States most of the time, because that's our closest neighbor. And it's like, why is it that they can't take it at one dose like chemo, and come back and continue on here? We don't have the machine. But why do they have to do it like 5 days or a week and stay there for the longest time? We have got a financial aid program, and we have got to, because most of the time the insurance doesn't actually cover the stay there, despite the fact we don't have the unit here. So most people do not have the ability to even pay for the hotels. So Cancer Society, again, through our financial aid, will actually sponsor their stay there, give them meal tickets, give them taxi to get there. Explain why to the listening public, why does it have to be staged?
If I could then maybe pick that up after the break. And I think, Dr. Tishko, you were heading out, moving on, or you got time for us as well?
No, I'd love to stay.
All right, well, let's find more space for everybody. Please stay tuned for Talk Today.
CUC advises customers on Fountain Road in West Bay that they will experience interruptions to their electrical service on Friday, September 20th between 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. Areas affected include all customers north of Agua Lane on Fountain Road, including Schooner Lane, Foremast Close, Pembroke Drive, Velma Banks Drive, Bansing Drive, Joseph Drive, and portions of Finch Drive and Thistle Lane. Agua Lane and Wave Close will not be affected by this outage. Motorists are asked to drive with caution when utilizing Fountain Road, as CUC will have a number of vehicles and personnel in the area and will be required to temporarily block one lane on several sections of Fountain Road. CUC apologizes for this interruption, which is necessary to facilitate required overhead infrastructure upgrades to provide our customers with safe, reliable, and efficient power. For more information on the outage and streets affected, please contact CUC's customer service team at 949-5200 or email service@cuc.ky.
Show your support for the scuba diving and water sports industry at the 2019 International Scuba Diving Hall of Fame Gala Induction Ceremony on Friday, October 4th at the Margaritaville Beach Resort. Tickets cost $75 pre-sold or $100 at the door, so get your tickets today. Tickets are available from the offices of the Department of Tourism and the Cayman Islands Tourism Association. The International Scuba Diving Hall of Fame Gala Ceremony, Friday, October 4th. Get your tickets now.
See what I'm saying? We're back. I know you all were pining for the show because every time I go out, I keep hearing, when you going to do next show? When you do next show? I like that show, I like that show. So join us for the next. See what I'm saying? I don't know when it is. It's 12:15 to 2:30.
You don't want to miss this unique, informative audience participation, light-hearted show with lots and lots of Cayman jokes, culture, and guests. As we talk about things we say and do, it happening every third Friday on Talk Today.
See what I'm saying is a special feature of Talk Today with contributions from the National Museum, a language, history, and culture show on Radio Cayman 89.9 and 93.9 FM.
Proudly sponsored by Cayman National Bank, proudly serving the Cayman Islands since 1974. RC Fusion, featuring Billboard pop hit songs and more from the 70s to the 90s.
RC Fusion.
Weekdays from 10 a.m. till 12. RC Fusion.
Brought to you by Nathan General Maintenance and Construction. You break it, they fix it. Call the General for a free quote. 917-7586.
RC Fusion.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. Thanks so much for joining us. You see the resources that we have within our small island. You see the ability that we can attract, retain, but equally continue to partner globally and regionally. And I'm honored to be able to help facilitate this and hopefully extend on behalf of the Cancer Society and all of the visiting physician sponsors and partners to come out to the free health fair on Saturday at the Grand Cayman Marriott. Now, as we get into the question that was posed during the break, we also have a general question for one of our listeners that we'd like to revisit at some point. We were talking about e-cigarettes and vaping, and this question was just posing, if it's equally dangerous, considering when it comes to smoking cigars, you're not inhaling. So maybe we could talk about that too, because there was a time when a particular set of celebrities were championing the idea of cigar smoking. So maybe we could revisit that at some point. But Dr. Patel from Holy Cross, there were some comments made earlier about the attractiveness of your equipment at the studio. I don't want to stop. Dr. Yin.
You know I always have to mention something.
So you would tell us.
So yes, fortunately, as radiation oncologists, we, all of medicine is about innovations and the ability to use the latest and greatest tools. But fortunately, with radiation oncology, we try to take it to the next level. And we actually, on the daily, use what we call linear accelerators. When we treat, we oftentimes use different particles. Most frequently, we use photons, which technically is not a particle, it's just high energy, and that's synonymous with X-rays. But we can also use electrons, neutrons, and protons as well, and they all have their specific merits. Getting back to Dr. Yin's question on why it takes so long for us to treat and why it's daily treatment, usually for as little as 1 week to as long as 8 weeks, is because we give just a little bit of radiation every single day, just to ensure that the normal tissue is not getting the effects. So when we look at cancer cells simplistically, they're primitive. They have the ability to replicate, but they're not as good as repairing as some of the normal cells are. So what we do is we push our normal cells to the ability where it's not beyond the threshold of injury, but just enough to get the cancer cells to get to the point where they are injured. So that way, we have to give a little bit of radiation every single day for an extended period of time. That's without getting into the fine parts of radiation biology. That's the general concept.
If I may ask, just from the sort of the patient's perspective, we would have this perception over time that in the past, with, say, chemo, you take it and it's all there and your body is affected, your hair loss, your appetite, and what have you. With radiation, now we see increasingly being able to target just that particular area. Right. And some people, years gone by, sort of making a comparison then to now, Dr. Yin, where you take radiation and just after that session of 5 minutes or 15 minutes, you're drained. Now you're not as affected as much.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a lot of, since there's been so much change in the way that we treat and the way that we're able to target, most of the side effects from radiation are a bit cumulative, and they're very focused to the area that we oftentimes treat. So along with that, there are some misconceptions to radiation. You do not see radiation. You do not feel it. It does not cause a burn. You are not radioactive when we use external beam radiation. If we put actual, radiation seeds in, the prostate, then yes, for a short period of time, you are radioactive. But the majority of the times, you're not radioactive. It's not hot to the touch. Usually, right after treatment, you really can't appreciate it, and it's not perceivable to the body, especially with what we give in common times. And what we do is there's very little systemic effect to radiation. You can feel fatigued as a whole, but a lot of that can be multifactorial, whether the patient's on chemotherapy, they just had a very big surgery, etc. Most of the side effects are very, very localized just to the area that we're treating.
And then would it be then, as we look at cancer, whether it's lung, whether it's prostate or otherwise, when we're looking at treatment, would it be better to have the combination of radiation as well as chemo, or maybe targeted radiation to specifically sort of excise that particular area?
So again, very, very good question. It all depends on, the exact area of the disease, the pathology behind the disease, and also the staging. So sometimes it's crucial that we use radiation as, definitive, which means just by itself. Sometimes we use it concurrently, which means with chemotherapy. Sometimes we use it neoadjuvantly, which means before surgery. And then sometimes we use it adjuvantly, which means after surgery. So there's a lot of different indications, and again, a lot of that is based on the exact type of disease as well as the exact staging of disease.
All right, so if I could,
and when we talk about cancer as one thing, it sometimes oversimplifies it. But if we do that, if we say we look at all cancer, 75% of the time, 3/4 of the time, surgery is used for cancer. So that, in most cases, is the main thing we want to be thinking about. For lots of different reasons, and lots of reasons that are changing very quickly, sometimes weekly, the recommendations for who gets chemo, who gets radiation, what order does chemo and radiation go in? Do we do chemo and radiation before surgery? Those are constantly being looked at. So, and it's a beautiful thing to see because there's so much information coming out so fast that anybody who's practiced for any length of time and remembers what it was like 20 years ago when there wasn't much information and there wasn't much change, this is a very gratifying time. The downside of that is it's very tough to keep up with it. And for patients to be able to really understand the nuances, the really, really subtle changes, it's very difficult. I think patients would be surprised if they knew how much of this was controversy and how much of this was opinion. And if you ever went to a major cancer meeting, a lot of it is opinion. People who have very strong opinions about opposite things. That would be very disconcerting to a patient because we all want to have clear answers. We want to know the right thing. But when the knowledge isn't there, there is no right thing. So you need to be making your best decision with the best information, just like Heather said. There will almost always be some opinion that needs to be considered. And I think when we're talking about treating the patient, you have to ask the patient, what do they want? But you have to make sure they have enough information to make an intelligent decision. So that those are.
I mean, as a GP, then I get it back. You know, like they go away, get all this opinion, and normally, because I've known these patients for a long time, they will come. I'm so confused, doc. I had just my husband is over there. He's getting all this. He's got prostate cancer. They're all coming in different departments, and and the poor family is completely like, what if I make the wrong decision? Then there are also factors that come in, especially as our patients go overseas and get these treatment, like, for example, radiotherapy. So if they've got a sister who just lives nearby to this particular, cancer treatment centers, and then there's another one that's really good over there because he's a veteran, so he should be going over there. And they're just in tears thinking, what if I make the wrong decision? He's going to die, right? And therefore, that is our dilemma as well. Because, again, in UK, US, or where they have got big centers, you still have the same problem. Because some centers may be far away, different towns and different cities. But in Cayman, it's a bigger problem because we really normally have one family member that goes with them. And they normally need to take turns to come back, right? And again, Florida being our closest port of call, most people will pick there. But then there are people who may have family in different states. So being in Cayman actually gives us a very much more like a difficult decision to make in that way. Well, mind you, the insurance normally have the final say, medical insurance, because some medical insurance doesn't cover this hospital, doesn't cover that hospital. So that comes into play as well. That's why to our visiting physicians, it's good to see that, that Holy Cross and, all these different Memorial Baptists all has been coming here for ages. So it's not that we don't want to refer the patients to each particular thing. It's because the final say is really the insurance company. Right? So that's the message out there to the insurance company. You really need to take into account that there are people, these are people you're talking about. Sometimes you've got to take into account that they have got family needs, they have got relatives that are nearby, and to be denied that and decline that because, sorry, they're not in our network, is not good enough. And that's Dr. Yin's pitch.
All right. Good pitch there. With that, let's head to the news break. When we come back, please join us for more discussion.
Radio Cayman. Headlines. Radio Cayman's newsroom. Headlines. These are the biggest stories right now.
The Ministry of Health says it's taking very seriously the concerns and risks that electronic nicotine delivery systems, most commonly known as vapes and e-cigarettes, have on health. This following recent news on multiple individuals developing lung damage and the number of deaths after vaping in the United States of America. That's according to the Centers for Disease Control. In a statement issued today, the Health Ministry says it's reviewing current legislation to implement intervention measures into the use of e-cigarettes by children, including adolescents. Good afternoon, I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines and news elsewhere. A new video has emerged of Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau wearing blackface a day after he admitted such behavior was racist. He apologized today after photos of two similar episodes, one when he was a teacher and the other a student, came to light. The revelations come amid campaigning for the October 21st election when Mr. Trudeau hopes to win a second term. A Belgian Air Force F-16 fighter plane has crashed in northwestern France, leaving one pilot caught on a high-voltage electricity line. The plane had clipped the roof of at least one house before crashing in a nearby field. The man was eventually retrieved from the power line after a 2-hour rescue operation by French emergency services. Tunisia's former president, Zine El Abidine Ben Ali, has died in exile, aged 83, his family says. Ben Ali led the country for 23 years and was credited with delivering stability and some economic prosperity. But he received widespread criticism for suppressing political freedoms and for widespread corruption. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back, and thank you so much for joining us. And really very, very grateful, not just to the Cancer Society, but if my guest assemble would allow me, to Radio Cayman, to have this discussion. I know that there are men out there who probably, to one extent, feel empowered. Others feel, whoa, there are a lot more questions. And I think Saturday, this free health fair would allow, whether it's a dietitian, whether it's the thrivers, or whether it's the visiting physicians or local resident population, to be able to a word, unfortunately, has become overused so much, and sadly, with the greatest respect, by politicians. Oh, we're going to empower. But knowledge is power, but there's power in knowledge. And Dr. Patel, with great respect to you and Dr. Tishko initial, maybe continue that discussion, because I think if I could ask, with the greatest of respect now and for your guidance, from the perspective of the conversations we've sort of danced around, Dr. Yin's sort of, initial little salvo across the bow early right before the break, that it is for us to be able to have access to certain things. We may have the insurance coverage, or we may not. We may have the personal financial resources, or we may not. But not having that knowledge, not having access, not having that level of financial resource, whether through insurance or otherwise, sometimes could position someone not to be able to get the very best treatment, whether it's selecting the right surgeon because of her expertise, or whether going to the problem. So where do we balance that with the policymakers, with the physicians, with the patient?
I think it all starts with information, and it all starts with knowledge. It all starts with realizing you must take care of yourself. And that means you must understand as much as you can understand. Sometimes patients feel like it should be somebody else's responsibility. It should be the government's responsibility or my doctor's responsibility. And to some extent it is. But ultimately, the more you know, the better you will do. And that means seeking out opinions. Now, whether that's the internet or talking to your doctor or somebody you know who's had good experiences or even bad experiences, you must get the information. And if you don't have it, you can't make a good decision.
Mm-hmm. Well, I must then ask then two things. One, I from just observation and sometimes just being there to help participate, I must commend physicians in recent times versus 20 years ago. You have a question, you ask, they're willing to engage you in a discussion. Dr. Ian shared earlier that the consultation is no longer 15 minutes, it's maybe an hour, and then it's a follow-up, then it's a phone call. Now, it's obviously very taxing on you as physicians because you don't just have that one patient, you got thousands, as it were. So that receptiveness, that willingness to engage in dialogue, but sometimes too as the patient, not only because of lack of knowledge and understanding, but because of the circumstance that potential probability of this diagnosis to cause us to live in the future. You're sitting there and the physician is having a conversation, but it's a different language. If we're talking economics and finance, I may understand you better. You're talking science and technology, I may not. So to have that transfers knowledge and speaking on the same page.
Can I just jump in here?
Yes,
then?
Dr. Yeah.
Because I do feel that in Cayman we are very lucky, right? It's through these sort of seminars and conferences we meet all these experts, specialists over here, and the general practitioners. Tonight you're going to meet many of them, right? And the nurses, the physiotherapists, the dietitian. You're talking about lung cancer, stage 1, blah, blah. I met Dr. Sitko the other day in the conference. What are you doing? Look him up. It's through connections. Yeah. Cayman still function like a closed circuit, right? Who do you know? It's who your family is. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we all are looking after each other, number one, and because we have close connection now, we met a couple of consultants. Next time we meet another 20 consultants and say, and so it's very important. That's why we have this 3-day event where the doctors hear from the same specialist, then the business community who's out there listens to the same people, know of you guys. You will leave your cards there so that they will get access to you. And then they ask the question. Then the last day, the public fair, that's when the whole public is able to access you. So this is what we say, we spread the word through different avenues. And so the patients, if the doctor is not here on island or whatever, they didn't hear him. But, the patient say, what, I listened to the public talk the other day and now I've got lung cancer. Do you know of this doctor, who presented? And they will tell you. Can you go and research it a little bit? Then that's where the family practitioners come in, or whoever, the nurse, maybe just talking to them. They'll come in and say, yeah, we attended this. So it's very important we have the same message that goes across. They all know you guys now through the radio, the listening audience again. You may not be able to come tomorrow or whatever, but now you know who we are and who these doctors are. So this is forum not just for professionals, but it is for everybody. So the presentation, if you're worried about, you may not understand the word that they're saying, but they will go down to the level where you will understand that even I understand. So that's great.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that it's really important to let people know that they can come and get information and ask questions. And anybody who's afraid of asking a doctor a question, I feel terrible for you. And, I know doctors that I can't talk to. And I've had people in my family go to doctors that I took them away from. So that's an issue that may be kind of a personality issue. If you ever feel like you can't talk to your doctor or you're being dismissed or they're too busy, here's my advice, loud and clear. Get out. Get out. If you can't feel like your doctor is explaining to you in a way that you can hang on to the information, get out. And at this fair, I would hope that all of us there are perfectly happy sitting down with people. Most of us love what we do. Most of us love talking about our unbelievably sophisticated machinery and techniques. We like that. So please feel free to do that. Just ask some questions. There was a time when my operating room was right across from the neurosurgeon's operating room. And I just loved wandering. I'd just go in there and I'd say, hey, what are you guys doing today? Just because that was something with which I had no familiarity. But it was just incredibly fascinating. So to be able to come out and talk to a bunch of us, I think it would just be a great opportunity. If not for you, then for somebody you care about.
Right.
Well, this is where I like Jen to pitch in about the fact that everybody can mingle together. There's never a question too dumb to ask.
That's right. Sometimes we hear patients say, I'm at the Cancer Society, so I have people who are friends or supporters of cancer patients or people who have just been diagnosed that come in, and when we say, talk to the doctors, they look down and they say, I don't even know where to start. One of the great things about having these talks that you can go and you can listen to a 10 or 15 minute presentation by each of these doctors means that you can go and you can hear and you can start to have some idea of what they're talking about. You kind of pick up on the vocabulary. You understand what he's talking about or she's talking about, and then that helps you formulate your question. And even if you're not sure, you can say, doctor, the word immunotherapy came up. I got to say, I don't even know what that is. You were talking about it, but I don't even know what the definition of that is. Even you saying adjuvant therapy, it's wonderful that you explained what that means. Doctors, when they talk to doctors, sometimes use doctor words. But at the public forum, everybody talks in a way that makes sense. And we want to encourage people that if you come and you hear things that don't make sense to you, say, I'm sorry, that doesn't make sense to me. Same way when they talk to the dietitians, when they say, oh, this is a antioxidant food, this is a superfood. What does that mean? Why is cantaloupe different than grapes? Why is one thing healthier for me than the other? And likewise, because we're going to have a survivor at our health fair this year. This is the first time we've had a cancer survivor's perspective there. I feel like it's going to be incredibly valuable because people often come to us and they say, what am I supposed to say to my friend who's going through cancer? Well, you can listen to her presentation and then afterwards you can say, what would have been helpful for you to hear? Or I'm not sure, should I say this? Should I not say that? Yep. How do I approach my friend? These are wonderful opportunities, and if you don't come out and take advantage of this, you're going to have to wait 24 months to do it again because we only do this every 2 years. So please come out to the health fair, talk to these doctors. At the end of these 3 days, after we abuse these doctors and make everybody just do so many presentations for us back to back to back, believe it or not, all of these doctors who paid to come here, they paid sponsorship to make it so that this event can be free for you. All of these healthcare systems paid so they could come here and volunteer to speak to you. After they do that, they come up to us in the end and they say, thank you so much for having me. This is why I became a doctor. We love to talk to people. It's great to not have to worry about insurance or it's a 15-minute billable increment. They love to be able to share their information. And I'm giving myself chills here.
Yeah.
So.
Well, when we come back from the break, perhaps we could revisit the conversation. Earlier, you referenced difference between male and female in relation to lung cancer, but I was also ask again about cigar smoking and maybe revisit the issue of vaping as well. So as we come back and we close out our final segment, we invite you to stay tuned.
Yes. Perfect. Excuse me, I noticed you from afar.
Really? Me?
Well, not you. The KFC sandwich you're eating?
Oh, Zinger.
Sorry, I'm not trying to be funny.
No, it's called the Zinger Sandwich. Crunchy, juicy, 100% chicken breast, crisp lettuce, sweet mayo on a seeded bun with a little zing. KFC's chicken is not factory-breaded, frozen and refried like the Burger Boys. Customize your KFC Zinger and dip it in barbecue sauce.
Wow, now I'm starting to notice you too.
KFC, it's finger-licking good.
Always separate debris from household garbage after a hurricane hits. Debris includes roofing materials, downed tree branches, and metals. All items of debris must be placed in separate piles to the front of the property or at a side that is easily accessible to collection trucks. Debris must be placed in a location that will not cause obstruction to roadways or come in contact with electrical lines. For more post-hurricane waste management tips, visit the DEH website at www.deh.gov.ky.
Are you a natural performer? Can you sing, dance, or play an instrument? Are you known as a gifted comedian? Older persons who can do a star turn are invited to call the Department of Children and Family Services on 949-0290 today. Sign up by Monday, 30th of September to be one of the acts to perform in next month's big stage event on the 10th of October at the Hartwell Theatre during Older Persons Month.
Headlines. With the latest headlines. All the news when you want it. Tune in to Radio Cayman for hourly headlines of the day's top stories.
One of Cayman's bright and shining young stars.
Local, regional, international.
Turning to international news.
Updates on the hour between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. on weekdays. Radio Cayman News.
Headlines.
Your voice, your choice for today's biggest news.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you haven't had your personal invitation to come out to the free health fair on Saturday, perhaps as we continue the discussion, Ms. Jen, maybe you could extend again a personal invitation. You pick them up and bring them there and take them back.
Well, it happens. It's funny you should say that because it happens every year that when I'm driving to the health fair early in the morning, I'll see some people that I know walking along the road, and I'll stop and I'll say, "You going to the health fair?" And I end up picking up 2 or 3 people along the way. That's Cayman, right? And so, yeah, I do that sometimes. But just to go on with what we were talking about before, if you are somebody who has no insurance, if you are somebody who is not working right now, if you are somebody who is underinsured, you especially need to make sure that you come to this. And if you are somebody who has good insurance but knows people who might not, you got to make sure that they're aware of this, which might mean that you need to support them coming to this. So you drive them and you drop them off, you pick them up, you come in with them. A lot of times we hear people saying, "Oh, well, I talked to the doctor and the doctor said this, but my friend said," and when I say, "Oh, is your friend a doctor?" "No, my friend, is whatever." It's a good idea to bring your friend, the people who you go to for guidance and who you chat with about what you will and won't do. It's a good idea if you all go to the health fair together. Then you can all talk to the doctor. A lot of times people say things to me like, "Oh, the doctor said I should do chemo and radiation." And I say, "Oh, what did you say to the doctor?" "I told him okay." "What are you going to do?" "Well, I'm not going to do either of those things. I'm going to do a natural treatment instead." And then I explain to them, that's not fair to you. It's not fair to your doctor. It's not fair to anybody. You have to give the doctor all the information about what you're thinking and what you want to do. And likewise, they have to have the opportunity to explain to you why that is or isn't a good idea. If you don't have that conversation, then you're not getting any of the information that you need to make a good decision.
All right. We do have a caller joining us, and I do recognize that we get closer and closer to the end of the program. Sometimes the demand is to have it from 7 a.m. to 7 a.m. As we go to our phones, a chance to invite you again to come out Saturday for the free health fair. Hey, good afternoon and welcome. You're on Talk Today.
Good afternoon, Dwayne.
Welcome back again, my friend. How are you?
Okay, and good afternoon to you guests.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yes, I'd like to share something with you all.
Yes, please.
Yes, when doctors are only able to do so much and cannot do any more, that's when God comes in. In 1994, my earthly father was diagnosed with lung cancer. One lung was totally cancerated, half of the other one was cancerated. They brought his family into the room in the hospital, and they gave him less than 3 months left to live. I went home, and I looked in the Bible for healing. And it said to get 3 elders from the church, anoint the sick person with oil, the sick person gets saved in faith, they shall be healed. And that's what my earthly father did. And he lived for 11 years and 8 months afterwards. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And with that, I believe strongly in that, as you shared earlier, mind over matter, that notion of believing in faith and the like. If we could ask, unless you wish to jump in and maybe add any comments, but we're talking as we look at the hours and the minutes and the seconds remaining in today's production, male and female. But before we do, when it comes to lung cancer, cigar smoking, is there a difference when it comes to cigar versus cigarette versus e-cigarettes versus vaping versus what have you?
There's a lot of information out there, but it doesn't directly correlate. For instance, the vaping hasn't been around long enough to really generate the amount of scientific information that cigar and cigarette has. And for the most part, people do not smoke a cigar the way they smoke a cigarette. They don't inhale it, they don't complete it. So the smoke tends to just mechanically spend most time around the mouth and tongue, which is why cigar cancers tend to be head and neck cancers, because it's generally not inhaled. There's that sort of gray zone where the cigars have gotten smaller and smaller and they almost look like big cigarettes. Those are just as carcinogenic as the cigarettes, but not because they're cigars, but because of the way people smoke them. The length of time that the smoke is held in the lungs is where the real damage occurs. It's called the dwell time. Mm-hmm. And you just don't really see people smoking a big cigar the way you would a cigarette. So the risks are not zero. Lung cancer is clearly associated with the long dwell times of cigarette smoking, less so than cigars. But cigars are dangerous for other reasons.
And also I wanted to comment on the fact that just like Dr. Tischer was saying, when we smoke cigarettes, it tends to be multiple times a day. When cigars smoke, not only is the dwell time different, but also the habit. Maybe it's just a short period of time. So anything that causes any localized inflammatory effect can lead to a malignancy. And that's the big concern we have with vaping just in general, is it's relatively new technology. We are seeing some adverse effects. There's people being hospitalized for different sorts of diseases. Has it yet so far caused any sort of malignancy? Not that we're completely aware of, but we can surmise that it probably is just because it's so new. Again, nothing is without any sort of risk in this sort of, habit.
We have to keep in mind that what's called a latency period, the period of time it takes for a cancer to develop. For lung cancer, it's 20 years. So if they just invented vaping, we won't have an answer for 2 decades. And that is something you really need to keep in mind, because I think the fuse is lit on this problem.
But then I keep thinking back to public policy, and we look at just within this jurisdiction, the recent warning from sort of healthcare professionals at the helm, and they're saying, be warned. But we're seeing the marketing dollars, we're seeing the profit margins of investments. $1 is returning $1 billion, for argument's sake. 20 years from now, some of these investors are going to be dead, but their financial legacy lives on. So maybe they don't care enough to worry about the health consequences. How do we address that as physicians and as politicians?
Well, wish we was a politician here to answer that one.
Yeah.
That's the panelist we forgot.
Yes.
All right. Well, maybe we leave it on the table for that. But Dr. Tishko?
Well, I don't think there's any way around being responsible for your own behavior. Would you wear a seatbelt if the government didn't require it? I would.
I would.
And I don't wear it because the government requires it. So I think a hefty dose of common sense will really serve us very well here. And with respect to vaping, putting something that's burning into your lungs is a bad idea, period. And if we can just avoid the whole desire to conform and look cool and have something to do, you can keep yourself alive longer to do your family some good. Maybe to do some good for the rest of the world.
So then, as I look at the health fair, and I'm thinking at the different topics from the visitors, or from the physicians generally, to the therapists, to the nutritional component, to come back to the caller's last point of the body being a temple, the mindset of a nation, recognizing the value of health and wealth being in your health and life. Have we come to a point where we're more interested in the semantics than we are in the significant value of life, Dr. Patel? Are we more looking at how much money I have versus how much material benefit I am to people?
Yeah, I mean that's a great philosophical question, just in general, and I think there's a lot of societal change that needs to happen. But I do also think that a lot of how we view ourselves, and whether that's physically, spiritually, mentally, psychologically, etc., is something that everyone should reflect upon. I do believe that in order for us to have wellness, it's not just physical and us making sure we mitigate risks of having certain disease, but there's also a huge psychological component. I think it's prudent that we also focus not only on our family and us being happy, but also the spiritual component, just like the caller had discussed. So I think if we take a holistic view to our care in general, and we do that, I think that's the best thing that we can do for ourselves. But mostly I do want the takeaway to be, and I think this has been insinuated before, that it should be led by us, and we need to step up. Yes, your healthcare is a team effort. You have physicians, you have, nurses, you have staff, you have family, friends, etc. But really, we need to take that into our own hands. And I think that's important that we do that. We can become empowered with knowledge and get all the information that we can.
Well, that information, I think, is sort of part and parcel of the presentations tonight with respect to the local practicing physicians, but also on Saturday for the general populace. Dr. Ian?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying that these are only 2 of the 9 presenters we're having. So you can imagine the wealth of knowledge and just interest, that from the local public and also from our own medical practitioners tonight. I think they'll be completely overblown with knowledge. Not only that, but also being the most important thing, I think, is this connection, with our doctors now. We know who they are, what they look like, what they are, how passionate they are. I think that comes true, even just through, at the radio station. But then when you're actually one-to-one with these doctors, you can't stop us from talking. That's why we talk so much, right? But I think, we come back to the same idea. I think as doctors, we train to do what we can do best. But I think our biggest thing is that we are educators, we're teachers, we're also nurses. We also are also part of the spiritual world, because we've got to look at the whole package and not just identify just because, you're good at what you do as a surgeon and you're good at what you do as a psychiatrist. But, to me, I think we have to embody everything when you're actually fighting cancer or any disease process, even heart disease, cardiovascular disease, which is like, okay, now we should not die from a heart attack, or we should not die from this. And one day maybe we will say we should not die from cancer. Because still cancer, when you mention to first diagnose them with it, you're dancing around that word. But when you mention that word, everything stops. I've seen patients, like I've sat in on so many consultations with, because I normally try to go with my patient to see the surgeon or see whoever is going to break the bad news, to hold their hand, because it's just as tough for the doctors. Don't forget, when we're trying to break news, we're so like, the biopsy came back and good news is this, but the bad news is this. And I could see, some of my colleagues are very uncomfortable, right? And that's where I take notes for the patient to say, and you can see the moment the word, but is it cancer, doctor? So you can talk about for 15 minutes to the patient. And they say, yes, so the biopsy shows this, the surgery shows this, the x-ray shows this, your oncogenic thing goes this, your HER2 positive, HER2 negative. Good. They didn't hear anything.
Right.
Is it cancer?
Yep.
And the surgeon is, I'm so sorry to tell you this, but it is. And that's when they shut down.
Yeah.
That's why it's so important, like Dr. Cisco say, you've got to bring somebody because you cannot hear anything else. But then the surgeon tried to, reiterate this is very stage very early, we can do a lot for you, blah, 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 but they can't hear anything. Right, so therefore the physician, then the family physician or your nurse or your friend or whoever say, let's go and talk to somebody else, and not somebody else, but just go and just get them to summarize things for you.
Well, that's why it's important to come to this, because even if you're not the patient, you may be the person they bring with them.
That's
so
what Heather was saying.
This doesn't have to be knowledge that's immediately applicable to you. It doesn't have to be about you, because knowledge is useful even for somebody else. You may be able to put in a sentence or two that could change somebody's life. Hey, did you think about radiation for that? That could change somebody's life. But if you don't bring it up, if you don't know, if you don't have that information to distribute, it's gone. So whether this is just for you or somebody else, the benefit of knowing more is just enormous, period.
Yeah. Even like breaking the news to your family, say, as a somebody who's just been newly diagnosed with cancer. When do you break the news to your children? When do you break your news to your mom and dad? Which is the really difficult one, right?
It's hard as the patient to do that.
Yeah.
But my message, if anyone wants to come see me tomorrow, I'll be there as a speaker. And the name of my talk is The Thrive Mindset. Because if you're going to go on this journey, you need to decide what kind of car you're driving. And I wanted to drive a convertible because I knew it was going to be a tough journey. But I decided to do it in luxury. So I took on this mindset that it's a mind-body connection, and I was going to take the best possible attitude with me, and I worked on it, and I'm going to be sharing a lot of that tomorrow. So please come see me. You need to come to the health fair.
Right.
And I think all the times of the public talks are actually on the on our website, so you're looking at that, and then it was also in last week's newspapers. Back page of the Wednesday and Thursday newspaper. Any doubt, just call 949-7618, but I'm not answering the phone, but Vicky is answering the phone and Kat.
But please come spend the whole day with us. It's going to be wonderful. 8:30 to 2? Excellent.
Yes.
We look forward to seeing you there, everyone.
And we're all going to be there for you, so just come over. I encourage everybody.
And there's plenty of giveaway from all the booths, from all these wonderful hospitals. It's going to have pens.
And all the other different things that are supported by the Cancer Society. But it's important for you to come over. I mean, we're there for you, and that's what we want to do.
All right. Well, I certainly appreciate it. Really looking forward to the opportunities for the public to have part of this free health fair. Dr. Monica, always a pleasure to, you're like a fixture within the studio, so thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Dr. Tishko,
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
It was a pleasure to welcome you aboard. And Dr. Yin, you're like a familiar face to all of us, so thanks very much. And Dr. Patel, likewise.
Thank you so much.
Enjoy yourselves, and hopefully the public will avail themselves of the free health fair on Saturday. Now, Ms. Susan's there, I'm here, and then tomorrow we have Ray Banker joining us for monthly See What I was saying. He's kept me busy these last few weeks. Wow. What's going to happen tomorrow? We'll come back, but first join me start in the morning for the record and then be back for us right after the midday news. Yes, ma'am. Until tomorrow, be blessed.
Talk Today is brought to you by Fidelity Bank. For all your banking needs, visit fidelitygroup.com. Fidelity, we're good for you.
Shaken yet standing firm. This is Radio Cayman in the Cayman Night.